The past cannot be buried. Dark beginnings. Min, a journalist specializing in investigating mysterious cases, receives an anonymous letter. Inside is an old piece of paper that records a cursed village. Those who set foot here all disappeared or returned in a state of madness. Fascinated by the mystery, Min decided to go investigate. When he arrived at the village, he realized that this place was almost abandoned, with only a few residents remaining with confused, scared eyes. A single old man dared to approach Min and tell the chilling story about the stranger's curse. The old man's voice whispered, as if afraid someone was eavesdropping. Mysterious dark past. Min began to explore the village and discovered an abandoned house that once belonged to the Tran family, who mysteriously disappeared 50 years ago. In the house, he found a diary letter recounting that the owner of the house, Mr. Tran Dai, once welcomed a stranger to stay. But from that day, strange phenomena began to happen. Whispers at night, mirrors breaking on their own, shadows lurking in dark corners. Determined to find out the truth, Min decided to stay at the house for one night. As night fell, he began to hear strange sounds, soft laughter, footsteps on the ceiling. Suddenly, the bedroom door automatically opened, and a dark shadow stood right in front of him. The past rises. Min panicked and ran out of the room, but it seemed like the house had completely changed. The walls are covered with scribbles, begging for salvation. A silent scream rang out. In a dark room, Min saw an image of a family tied up in chairs, their faces full of fear. A tall, dark figure stood between them, whispering curses before each person collapsed. He realized that he had accidentally awakened something from the past. The villagers did not leave out of fear. They were forced to leave to prevent a cruel force from returning. But Min's presence broke that balance. The curse returns. Min tried to leave the house but discovered that the only door had disappeared. When he turned around, the mysterious shadow moved closer. His face was pale, his eyes were empty, and his mouth muttered horrifying sentences in an ancient language. Min realized he was trying to pass the curse to him. With his last bit of consciousness, Min rushed out the window, fell to the ground, and lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself lying in the middle of a deserted field, with no trace of the house or village left. It's all just like a dream or a nightmare that will never escape. Terrifying consequences. Returning to the city, Min decided to write an investigative article. But the people who helped him all mysteriously disappeared. Strange messages appeared on his phone, warning him not to mention the village again. Every night, Min hears whispers coming from the corner of the room. One night, while sitting in front of the computer, Min saw a black shadow reflected on the screen. A soft sound rang out. The wooden chair moved slightly, even though the room was alone. Bam! The window opened. A strong wind blew the curtains. Min rushed to close the door, but as soon as he touched it, he felt something soft and cold. Not like wood, but like human skin. He pulled his hand back, his heart pounding. On his hand, there was a layer of slimy liquid, dark red like blood. Looking back at the laptop screen, he saw something strange. In his reflection, he remained still, but the door behind him was no longer closed. A figure stood right in the room. A cold breath blew onto Min's neck. "Do you remember?" That voice wasn't his, but it was strangely familiar. Min wanted to scream, but his throat felt choked. Images flashed through his mind. A dark room, a knock on the door in the middle of the night, a thin hand touching his neck, and then a body, eyes opened wide, dumbfounded. Blood splattered on the floor. Min suddenly remembered. 5 years ago, this room, Min has been here before. 5 years ago, he rented this apartment with his close friend Hung. But gradually, a crack appeared between them. It all starts with a secret. One night, Hung called Min home, saying there was something important. When Min arrived, he saw Hung holding a stack of old papers, medical records. The name on it is Min's. Hung looked at him, his voice trembling. "You were in a mental hospital. You're not Min. You're just a part of him." "No way. Min doesn't remember anything." Anger flared up. In a moment of losing control, he grabbed the ashtray and hit Hung directly in the head. Once, twice, 3 times, until Hung lay motionless on the floor, blood splattered around. Back to the present. Min looked at the laptop screen. The person in there is Hung. Hung is not dead, or rather, he cannot die. The figure on the screen showed a strange smile. "Do you think you can forget me?" Min shouted, grabbed his laptop and threw it hard on the ground. The screen shattered, but in the last moment he saw something terrible. The black shadow in the screen is getting closer. And then, clack, the door behind Min automatically opened. A bony hand reached out from the darkness, clutching his shoulder. A familiar voice whispered into Min's ear, "This time, it's your turn. Thank you for reading this story. Remember, there are mysteries that should not be delved into, and there are memories that are best left in the dark." The Midnight Knock Room. Hui is a young man who has just moved to the city to start a new job. Because he wanted to save money, he found a cheap room to rent. Finally, he found a small apartment deep in a deserted alley. The rent is surprisingly cheap and the landlord does not require many procedures. But when checking in, he just said a strange sentence. "Remember not to open the door for anyone at night." Hui shivered a bit at that warning, but then told himself maybe it was just a normal reminder. Anyway, the rental price is too good to pass up. He quickly moved in, arranged his belongings, and started a new life. During the day, everything goes smoothly, but when night falls, Hui begins to feel something is wrong. On the 3rd night in the apartment, at nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, Hui was sleeping when he was startled awake by hearing a knock on the door. At first, he was still sleepy, not sure if he heard correctly, but the knocking continued, steady, slow, and patient. Hui got out of bed and slowly walked towards the door. His heart pounded loudly in his chest. Looking through the peephole, he saw no one outside. A chill ran down his spine. Hui took a deep breath and was about to turn around and leave when knock, 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 knock. The knocking sounded again, stronger than before. He gulped and took a few steps back. Suddenly remembering the landlord's advice, Hui decided not to open the door. He turned off the light, climbed into bed, and tried to sleep, even though his heart was still pounding in his chest. The next morning, Hui went to the company and told this story to an older colleague. After listening, that person pondered for a moment, then said in a serious voice, "You should leave there as soon as possible. I heard that before, in the room you lived in, there was a girl who committed suicide. Since then, every night someone hears knocking on the door, but no one sees anyone. Rumor has it, she is waiting for someone to open the door for her." The colleague's story made Hui cold. He decided to test this. That night, he did not sleep, but took his phone, turned on the video recording mode, and waited. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, the knock on the door rang again. This time, it was no longer gentle but became stronger, more intense, as if someone was trying to penetrate inside. Hui mustered all his courage, took the phone, and walked to the door. He gently pressed his eyes to the peephole, and then he froze. Another eye was staring at him from the other side. Hui screamed, jumped back, and almost fell. The phone in his hand fell to the ground. In that moment, he felt a cold breeze flow through his body. The knocking on the door suddenly stopped. He tremblingly picked up the phone and turned on the bright lights throughout the room. The space became terrifyingly quiet. That whole night, Hui didn't dare close his eyes, just sat huddled in the corner of the room, waiting for the first light of the new day. The next morning, Hui decided to check out immediately. When he went to meet the homeowner, this person did not show any surprise. He just sighed and quietly took back the key without asking anything else. When leaving the room, Hui turned back for one last look. The window shook slightly even though there was no wind outside. And on the glass, a faint handprint appeared, as if someone had just placed their hand on it and watched him leave. Without hesitation, Hui turned and ran, never to return to that alley again. Whisper in the night. I sat in front of the laptop screen, my heart racing. With trembling fingers, I rewinded the video I just recorded last night. 2:59 a.m. I was lying on the bed, motionless, A minute later, it appears. A shadowy, faceless shadow sat right on my bed. It whispered something, and I, even though I was still sleeping, moved slightly as if hear it. My heart is cold. I knew I had to tell everything. Old hotel and first night. My business trip to this small town lasted 3 days. I chose an old hotel located in the center because of its historical beauty. The building was built in the 19th century with long hallways, heavy wooden doors, and an old scent of polished wood and leather. The receptionist is a tall, thin man, neatly dressed. When I received the room key, a heavy metal key instead of modern magnetic cards, I suddenly felt something strange. My room is on the 3rd floor, at the end of the hallway. When walking, the wooden floor creaks underfoot. Everything's scary silence. The first night went smoothly, but things started to change on Monday night. Whispers in the night. I returned to my room at 10 p.m. As soon as the door opened, a blast of cold air came, even though it wasn't cold outside. I checked the window, it was still closed. I took a hot shower, trying to get rid of the uncomfortable feeling. But as soon as I turned off the light and went to bed, I heard it. A whisper, not loud, but very close, right next to my ear. I turned on the light. There's no one. I told myself maybe it was because I was tired. But the 3rd night, things got worse. I can't be here. On the last night of my business trip, I decided to go to bed early. But around 3 a.m., I was awakened by a cold breath right next to the nape of my neck. Please, don't stay here. A weak voice rang out right next to me. I stiffened, heavy breathing. I got up and turned on the light. Nothing, but I couldn't go back to sleep. The next morning, I decided to go down to the front desk and tell the strange story of last night. The receptionist looked at me with awkward eyes. You're not the first to talk about this. She said that many years ago, a woman died right in this room. She had heard whispers, but no one believed them. One night, people found her dead in bed, face down, full of terror. I decided to verify. The last night, I put my laptop to record videos while I slept. And that's when I discovered I'm not alone in the room. Ghost appears. 3 a.m. I am sleeping. Then on the screen, a dark shadow gradually appeared. It is not present, just a dim shadow, but it's looking at me. I woke up, feeling an invisible hand was placed on me. I can't scream. Throat feels tight. The black shadow leaned close to my ear and whispered, I can't leave from. I got up and turned on the light, but it has disappeared. The next morning, I left the hotel immediately. But the nightmare isn't over yet. Followed me home. I thought everything was over when I left the hotel. But a few days later, I started heard whispers in his apartment. At first, the sounds were very small, almost inaudible. But one night, I felt it clearly. Cold breath passed over my face. I turned on the light, no one. I checked the video recorded from the surveillance camera, and I was dumbfounded. At 3 a.m., in the screen, the door to my room opened, even though I clearly remember locking it. I know I can't escape. Followed me home. I found a psychic, Ms. Hoa. As soon as I told the story, she just fell silent and said, "This thing is not a ghost. It is an ancient entity. It needs a way to leave that place. And you are the way. To get rid of it, I must return to the hotel and complete the sealing ritual." We returned at midnight, carrying sea salt, white candles, and a mirror. When the ritual begins, the room shook. The whisper rang out, thick. The window slammed shut. I feel the cold hand placed on my shoulder again. Mrs. Hoa shouted, "Look in the mirror. Don't look away." In the mirror, I saw that black shadow deformed and twisted in pain. Mrs. Hoa threw salt into the mirror, then smashed it. A shrill scream rang out. Everything shook violently, then absolute silence. It's gone. After performing the exorcism, the main character returns home and feels safe. That night, for the first time in many days, he could sleep without fear. But the next morning, a strange message appeared on his phone. "You think you got away?" He froze. Trembling hands opened the sender information section. His own phone number. Breath caught in throat. Heart beats erratically. A chill spreads throughout the body. Before I could calm down, the screen suddenly turned off automatically. Then, the phone turned itself back on. This time, there were no more messages. He reassured himself that it was just a system error. Could be a joke. But that night, when I fell asleep, as soon as I closed my eyes, a familiar voice whispered right in my ear, "Thanks for taking me out." His heart seemed to stop beating. The room was dark, but now, it's no longer locked in an abandoned house. It's out here, among the human world. Fourth person's shadow. I still remember clearly the day my friends and I decided to explore the abandoned house at the end of town. That house has been abandoned for many years, mired in scary rumors. It is said that the previous owner of the house mysteriously disappeared, leaving behind horror stories about strange noises at night and silhouettes of people looming behind dusty windows. We, a group of 4 people, including me, Nam, Lin, and Hui, decided to test our courage by entering this place at midnight. The rotten wooden door hissed when we gently pushed it open, as if warning of something. The cold air pervades, carrying with it the smell of mold and the desolation of time. Inside the house is a long hallway leading to dark rooms. Everything was covered in dust, but the strange thing was that there were some footprints on the floor, as if someone had just passed by. I felt something was wrong, but still quietly followed the group. As we went deeper, Nam discovered an old diary on a rotten wooden table. The pages were yellowed, but the writing was still clear. "They are watching me. I can hear the whispers every night. This house has something that is not of this world." The words on the last page made us shiver. Suddenly, a loud noise rang out from upstairs. The whole group was startled, their hearts pounding. We looked at each other. No one dared to speak. Nam, with unlimited curiosity, took a flashlight and led the way up the stairs. Each step creaked under our feet, as if ready to collapse at any moment. When the door on the second floor opened, a stream of cold air rushed out, bringing with it an unpleasant stench. In the dark room, we saw an old bed with a vague shape lying on it. My heart almost stopped when I realized it was a human body, but it was not intact. On the wall were scrawled words written in something that looked like blood. "Do not look!" At that moment, a soft laugh rang out from the corner of the room. We turned around, but didn't see anyone. The flashlight flickered, then went out. In the darkness, I felt cold breath on the back of my neck. An invisible hand touched my shoulder, making me scream in panic. Without anyone telling anyone, the whole group rushed down the stairs and ran out of that ghostly house. When we reached the street, we dared to stop, panting in fear. But at that moment, Nam suddenly asked, "Wait, when we came in, there were 4 of us, right?" I was stunned and turned back to look at my group of friends. 1, 2, 3. There are only 3 people standing here. Where is the 4th person? And more importantly, who is that 4th person? We looked at each other in panic. No one clearly remembers who they entered with. We only remember 4 people entering the house. But the 4th person's face, no one can remember. Hui suddenly stammered, his voice trembling. I think I remember. When I was in the house, when the flashlight turned off, I felt someone standing next to me, but I thought it was one of us. I also heard breathing right next to my ear, but it clearly wasn't ours. Lin suddenly turned pale and took a step back. Me too. At that time, I also saw a hand clinging to my shoulder, but it wasn't the hand of anyone in our group. Suddenly, a whispering voice rang out right in my ear, but it didn't come from anyone in the group. "I'm home. Thank you guys for taking me out." A cold wind blew, bringing with it a chilling feeling. We looked at each other, not daring to say another word. But deep down, everyone understands that that 4th person is not human. From that day, none of us dared to return to that house again. But every time I pass by, I always feel like someone is watching me from the window on the 2nd floor. A shadowy figure, standing there, waiting, and maybe he has always followed us since that night.